The bedroom smelled of lavender and antiseptic. Monitors beeped in rhythm with shallow breathing. Marcus Carter stood in the doorway, his mother's keys cold in his palm. Richard Ashford lay motionless in the massive bed, white sheets pulled to his chest. His face was wax-pale, eyes closed, mouth slightly open. The machines tracked every breath, every heartbeat. Marcus had been told the old man was unconscious, dying, beyond awareness. But something felt wrong. Marcus stepped inside, shoes silent on thick carpet. The amber lamp on the desk cast long shadows across legal papers scattered like fallen leaves. He shouldn't be here. His mother had only asked him to retrieve her keys, forgotten on the nightstand after her evening shift. He moved toward the desk. The papers drew his eye. One document sat apart from the others, labeled in bold letters, "Final Addendum to Last Will and Testament." Marcus glanced at the bed. Ashford's chest rose and fell. The monitors hummed their mechanical song. He picked up the document. His eyes scanned the legal language, hunting for his mother's name. There, Elena Carter, housekeeper, 17 years of service. And then the clause that made his blood stop. Inheritance voided unless employment continues 6 months post-mortem. Marcus read it again. His hands began to shake. Behind him, Richard Ashford's finger twitched against the sheet. Marcus didn't see it. He was too busy staring at the words that would destroy his mother's future. The old man's eyelid flickered. Just once. Then stillness returned. Marcus felt the air change. The sensation of being watched crept up his spine. He turned toward the bed, document still gripped in trembling hands. Ashford lay perfectly still. But the rhythm of his breathing had changed. 3 weeks earlier, winter had arrived with brutal cold. Eleanor Carter stood in the Ashford mansion's kitchen, preparing Earl Grey tea the way Richard Ashford demanded, precisely 3 minutes steeped. 1 sugar cube served at 160 degrees. She'd worked in this house for 17 years. Every marble floor, every crystal chandelier, every locked door, she knew them all. The mansion sprawled across 5 acres in Connecticut's wealthiest enclave, a monument to old money and older cruelty. Elena's son Marcus had come home for winter break. At 23, he was 2 semesters away from his law degree at Howard University. She watched him move through their small apartment with careful exhaustion, student loan statements stacked on the kitchen counter like accusations. $80,000. That's what his education cost. That's what hung around his neck. "Mr. Ashford promised me something," Eleanor told Marcus one evening. She stirred pasta on their second-hand stove, not meeting his eyes. "In his will." "Enough to pay off your loans," Marcus froze. "Mom, did you get that in writing?" She shook her head. "He gave me his word. 17 years, Marcus. He's not a bad man. He remembers kindness," Marcus wanted to argue, but he saw the hope in her eyes, fragile, necessary, and stayed silent. She needed to believe that her decades of service meant something, that her labor had purchased not just survival but dignity. The Ashford mansion wasn't a home. It was a cathedral to wealth, and people like Elena were its invisible congregation. She moved through halls lined with art worth more than her lifetime earnings. She polished silverware used once yearly. She cleaned bathrooms larger than her apartment. Marcus had visited the mansion twice before. Each time he felt the weight of the place, how it made his mother smaller, quieter, grateful for scraps. Trevor Ashford, Richard's son, treated staff like furniture. Useful, replaceable, beneath notice. But Elena smiled through it all. She'd taught Marcus that survival required swallowing pride. "We're not powerless," she'd told him once. "We're patient. There's a difference." Marcus wasn't sure he believed her anymore. Patience looked too much like surrender. Still, when she asked him to keep her company during her evening shifts, Mr. Ashford had grown frail, his health declining. Marcus agreed. He studied in the servants' quarters while his mother worked, textbooks spread across the narrow bed. He didn't know he was waiting for something to break. He didn't know the breaking had already begun. Richard Ashford collapsed on a Tuesday afternoon. Eleanor found him in his study, crumpled beside his mahogany desk. She screamed for help, and the mansion erupted into controlled chaos. Paramedics arrived. Doctors were summoned. Trevor Ashford flew in from Manhattan on a private helicopter, expensive coat billowing as he strode through the front doors. The diagnosis came swift and final: massive stroke. The old man had slipped into unconsciousness. Brain activity minimal. He was dying, the doctors said. Days, maybe a week. Trevor stood in the hallway outside his father's bedroom, phone pressed to his ear. Eleanor passed him carrying fresh linens. He didn't acknowledge her presence. "Get Pryor here immediately," Trevor said into the phone. "We need to execute everything before he dies." "Yes, everything." Kenneth Pryor arrived that evening, tall, silver-haired, eyes like a calculator. He carried a leather briefcase and wore a suit that cost more than Elena's monthly salary. Trevor met him in the study, doors closed. Marcus watched from the kitchen doorway. His mother was crying quietly, stirring soup that Mr. Ashford would never eat. "He was good to me," Elena whispered. "He promised." "I know, Mom." Marcus put his arm around her shoulders. She felt small, breakable. Later, Marcus carried towels upstairs. He passed the study. The door was ajar. Trevor's voice carried into the hallway. "The staff severance is 2 weeks. No more. I want them gone the day after the funeral." Pryor's voice was calm. "Your father's will does contain provisions for—" "I don't care what sentimental nonsense he wrote. They get standard severance. Nothing more." Marcus's jaw tightened. He kept walking. That night, Elena couldn't sleep. She paced their apartment, wringing her hands. "I need to get my keys," she said suddenly. "I left them on his nightstand. They have the code to the medicine cabinet. The nurses might need them." Marcus looked at his mother's face, exhausted, grief-stricken, still thinking of duty. "I'll get them," he said softly. "You rest." She didn't argue. She was too tired. Marcus drove to the mansion under a moonless sky. The security guard recognized him, waved him through. The house was dark except for the second-floor light in Ashford's bedroom. He climbed the stairs, keys in his pocket. He told himself he'd be quick, in and out, no lingering. But when he entered the bedroom and saw those papers on the desk, curiosity became compulsion. And compulsion became discovery. The addendum sat there like a confession. Marcus read it twice, then 3 times. The legal language was clear. Eleanor's inheritance was conditional. Impossibly conditional. Trevor planned to fire her immediately. The clause required 6 months of continued employment. It was a trap disguised as generosity. Marcus's hands shook with rage. He looked at Richard Ashford's body, still silent, machines beeping their steady rhythm. And then he noticed something. The old man's breathing had changed. Faster, shallower. Marcus stepped closer. "Mr. Ashford?" No response, but the monitor showed a spike. Heart rate elevated. Just for a moment, Marcus felt ice spread through his chest. He leaned down, spoke directly into the old man's ear. "I know what you did." Richard Ashford's fingers curled against the sheet. The movement was tiny, involuntary. But it was there. Marcus straightened, document clutched in his hand. The old man wasn't unconscious. He was pretending, hiding, waiting for his cruelty to execute itself while he played dead. Marcus pulled out his phone and photographed everything. Marcus stood frozen in that amber-lit room, phone trembling in his grip. The photographs glowed on his screen, evidence of a trap 17 years in the making. His mother had given this man everything. Early mornings and late nights. Holidays spent cleaning instead of resting. Gratitude swallowed like medicine. And Ashford had built her a cage disguised as a gift. Marcus thought of his mother's hands, calloused from decades of scrubbing floors that never stayed dirty, scarred from years of scalding water and harsh chemicals, hands that held his face when he cried as a child, that packed his lunches with food she went without. Those hands believed in promises, in hard work rewarded, in the basic decency of powerful men. Rage burned in Marcus's throat, hot and acidic. He wanted to scream, to shake the old man awake and force him to face what he'd done. But fury wouldn't help his mother. Evidence would. He looked at Ashford's face, peaceful, serene, the mask of a dying saint. But Marcus had seen the truth. The fingers curling, the monitor spiking, the breathing that changed when Marcus spoke. This man was awake, aware, listening. How long had he been pretending? Days, weeks? Had he heard Trevor and Pryor discussing the severance plan, saying nothing, content to let his son destroy what he'd promised? Marcus remembered something his mother once told him. The powerful don't see us, baby. We're ghosts to them, and ghosts can't fight back. But ghosts could watch, could gather evidence, could learn the truth while everyone else believed the lie. Marcus pocketed his phone. He retrieved his mother's keys from the nightstand. As he turned to leave, he paused at the doorway. "I'm going to stop you," Marcus whispered into the silent room. "You won't steal from her. Not while I'm breathing." The monitors beeped their rhythm. Ashford didn't move, but Marcus saw it, the faintest tension in the old man's jaw. A micro-expression of rage, quickly suppressed. He knows I know, Marcus thought. And he can't do anything about it. Marcus left the room. He drove home through empty streets, mind racing with strategy. His mother was asleep when he arrived, curled on the couch. He draped a blanket over her shoulders and sat at the kitchen table staring at his phone. The evidence was there. But what could he do with it? He was a college student. They were billionaires with lawyers. He had photographs. They had power. Still, Marcus opened his laptop. He began to research. Legal precedents, elder fraud, competency challenges. The law was a weapon. He just needed to learn how to wield it. Outside, dawn approached. Elena slept. And in a mansion across town, Richard Ashford lay in his bed, eyes closed, breathing steady, pretending. Marcus was 8 years old when he learned what his mother's labor cost. She'd come home from the Ashford mansion with a black eye, walked into a cabinet, she said, but Marcus saw the shame in her face. She'd been reaching for a crystal vase on a high shelf. Trevor had startled her with a cruel joke. She fell, struck her face, bled onto antique carpet. Trevor laughed. Mr. Ashford gave her $50 and told her to be more careful. Elena didn't report it, didn't complain. She needed the job. A single mother with a bright son and no degree, no safety net. The Ashfords paid better than other families. That's all that mattered. Marcus grew up in the shadow of that mansion. His mother left before he woke and returned after dark. She missed school plays and parent conferences. She worked double shifts during holidays. Christmas meant overtime pay, but she never let Marcus see her break. She smiled when she packed his lunches. She helped with homework at midnight, exhausted but present. And she told him the same thing over and over. Education is freedom. Get your degree, baby. Nobody can take that from you. Marcus believed her. He studied in libraries and community centers. He applied for every scholarship. When Howard University accepted him with partial aid, Elena wept with joy. But partial wasn't enough. Tuition, housing, books, it added up. Marcus took loans. Then more loans. By sophomore year, he owed $40,000. By senior year, $80,000. Elena worked longer hours. She sent him money she couldn't spare. Marcus told her to stop. She refused. "This is why I work," she said during a phone call. "So you don't have to live like I do." Marcus heard the exhaustion in her voice. The way she coughed now, harsh and wet. The way she mentioned pain in her joints, her back, her hands. She was 52 but moved like 70. The Ashford mansion had consumed her youth, her health, her dreams, and in return, Richard Ashford had promised her something. Security, dignity, a chance to rest. Marcus had wanted to believe the promise was real, that 17 years of loyalty meant something. That his mother's faith in human decency wasn't misplaced, but standing in that bedroom, holding evidence of Ashford's betrayal, Marcus understood the truth. His mother had been used, exploited, given hope as a leash to keep her obedient. The $80,000 of debt wasn't just numbers on paper. It was his future in chains. Every month after graduation, he'd send payments to faceless institutions. For years, maybe decades, the law degree that was supposed to free him would become another form of bondage, and his mother would keep working. She'd scrub floors until her body gave out. She'd smile through pain and call it gratitude, unless Marcus stopped it. He thought of his pre-law classes. The professors who taught him that justice was a system, not a feeling. That power protected power. That the marginalized needed evidence, strategy, allies. He had evidence now. 2 photographs of a poisonous clause. And somewhere in those pictures was the seed of a larger truth. Proof that Richard Ashford was conscious, aware, complicit. Marcus opened his laptop and began drafting an email to his academic advisor. He needed help. Legal expertise. Someone who understood elder law and exploitation. His phone buzzed. A text from his mother. "Did you get the keys?" "Is everything okay?" Marcus typed back. "Got them. Everything's fine. Get some rest." He sent the message and returned to his research. Everything wasn't fine, but it would be. He'd make sure of it. Marcus returned to the mansion the next afternoon. His mother was working in the laundry room, folding sheets with mechanical precision. Trevor and Pryor were in the study discussing estate details. Marcus told the security guard he was delivering lunch to his mother. The guard waved him through. No one watched the staff's college kid son. He was invisible, just like Elena. He climbed the stairs to Ashford's bedroom. The door was closed but unlocked. He slipped inside. The old man lay exactly as before, motionless, machines humming, face serene. Marcus approached slowly. "His heart hammered against his ribs, Mr. Ashford," Marcus said quietly. "I know you can hear me." No response. The monitors beeped steadily. Marcus stepped closer. "I found the addendum. The clause about my mother's employment. You knew Trevor would fire her. You designed it that way. Still nothing." But Marcus watched the monitor. Watched the numbers. Heart rate 72, steady. He tried again. "You're going to steal from her. After 17 years, you're going to take away what you promised." Heart rate 74. A tiny increase. Marcus leaned down, spoke directly into Ashford's ear. "I'm going to stop you. I'm going to prove you're faking this. And when I do, every document you've signed becomes fraud." The monitor spiked. Heart rate 86. Blood pressure rising. Ashford's jaw tightened. His fingers curled against the sheet. The movement was involuntary, reflexive, but unmistakable. Marcus pulled out his phone and took a video. 10 seconds of the old man's face, the monitor showing elevated vitals, the subtle tension in his body. Then Marcus saw something else. A folder on the desk, half hidden under medical charts. He opened it carefully. Inside was a document dated 2 months earlier. A recorded deposition. Marcus's hands shook as he read the first page. Statement of intent. Richard L. Ashford, recorded November 3rd. Regarding household staff expectations and legacy provisions. Marcus scanned the text. His stomach turned. "I have informed multiple staff members of inheritance provisions to secure their continued loyalty and discretion. This strategy has proven effective in maintaining a stable household. However, actual distribution of said inheritances is contingent upon terms designed to minimize estate tax burden and ensure staff do not become entitled beyond their station." Marcus read it twice. The language was cold, clinical. Ashford had promised inheritances to multiple people, not just Elena, as a manipulation tactic. He'd never intended to honor them. The impossible clauses were features, not bugs. Further down, another passage made Marcus's blood freeze. "Should questions arise regarding my mental competency during estate execution, I am documenting this statement while demonstrably lucid. My son Trevor and attorney Kenneth Pryor are aware of my full faculties and my strategic intentions. It was an insurance policy. Proof that Ashford had been conscious and deliberate when creating the trap. Trevor and Pryor knew. They'd helped him plan it. Marcus photographed every page. His hands shook so badly the first few pictures blurred. He steadied himself, took them again. Behind him, Ashford's breathing changed. Faster, shallower. Marcus turned. The old man's eyes were still closed, but his face had shifted. Color rising in his cheeks. The monitor showed heart rate climbing. 90, 95, 100. "You're angry," Marcus whispered. "You know I found it. You know what I'm going to do." Ashford's hand moved. Just an inch, fingers reaching toward the call button near his pillow, but the movement was too slow, too weak. He couldn't complete it without revealing consciousness. Marcus watched the old man struggle. Part of him felt horror. Part of him felt satisfaction. "You can't call for help," Marcus said softly, "because if you do, everyone will know you've been awake this whole time. You'll have to explain. You'll have to face what you've done." The hand stopped moving, settled back against the sheet. The monitor showed heart rate beginning to decline. Ashford had made his choice. He'd stay hidden, stay silent, and let his cruelty unfold in darkness. Marcus pocketed his phone, photographs and videos safely stored. He had evidence now, proof of consciousness, proof of conspiracy, proof that the man everyone believed was dying had orchestrated a fraud from his deathbed. But evidence wasn't enough. Marcus was nobody. A college kid, a maid's son, a ghost in this mansion of power. He needed allies. He needed someone who could turn these photographs into action. He left the bedroom quietly. Downstairs, his mother was still folding laundry. She smiled when she saw him, tired but genuine. "You staying for dinner, baby?" "Can't, Mom. I have to go back to campus." Library research. It wasn't entirely a lie. He did have research to do. Legal research. Strategy research. How to fight billionaires with nothing but truth. Elena hugged him. "Drive safe." "I love you." "Love you too, Mom." Marcus walked out of the mansion into cold afternoon light. He sat in his car for a long moment, staring at his phone. The photographs glowed on the screen. Then he opened his email and began typing. Subject line: "Urgent elder fraud case, need guidance." He sent it to 3 people: his academic advisor, his pre-law professor, and the head of Howard's legal clinic. Somewhere in that network was someone who could help him, someone who could help him fight. Marcus received one reply within hours. His pre-law professor, Dr. Lena Hartfield, agreed to review the evidence. But she warned him, documentation alone won't overturn a will. You need institutional support. Marcus decided to confront Trevor directly. If he could pressure them into withdrawing the addendum, maybe litigation wouldn't be necessary. Maybe they'd back down. He was wrong. 2 days later, Marcus arrived at the mansion with printed copies of the photographs. Trevor was in the study with Pryor, reviewing paperwork. Marcus knocked, entered without waiting for permission. "I need to speak with you," Marcus said. His voice didn't shake. That surprised him. Trevor looked up, irritation flickering across his face. "You're Eleanor's son." "Marcus, isn't it? This isn't a good time. It's about the will." Marcus placed the photographs on the desk. "Specifically the addendum you added." Pryor's eyes narrowed. He picked up one of the photos, studied it. "Where did you get these?" "Your father's desk. I found the clause voiding my mother's inheritance, the one requiring 6 months of continued employment." Trevor leaned back in his chair, expression unreadable. And you're planning to fire her immediately after the funeral. The clause is designed to fail." "It's fraud," Trevor smiled. The expression was cold, amused. "My father's generosity toward staff is well documented, but inheritances require proper legal standing. Your mother will receive standard severance, 2 weeks' salary. Very generous considering." Marcus's jaw tightened. "I also found his deposition. The one where he admits using inheritance, promises to manipulate staff loyalty." Pryor set down the photograph. "That document is privileged estate planning material. Accessing it without authorization is potentially criminal. Documenting elder fraud is whistleblowing, not theft." "Elder fraud?" Trevor laughed. "My father is unconscious, dying. He can't be committing fraud. Marcus pulled out his phone, opened the video, then explained this. He played the clip. 10 seconds of Ashford's face, the monitor spiking, the fingers curling. Trevor and Pryor watched in silence. When it ended, Trevor's smile didn't waver. You filmed a dying man's involuntary muscle spasms. Hardly evidence of consciousness. The doctors have confirmed his condition. The doctors didn't test for awareness. They assumed, they diagnosed based on medical expertise, Pryor interrupted. What you have is circumstantial video, taken illegally, showing nothing conclusive. No court would accept it. Marcus felt the ground shifting beneath him. The deposition is a private estate document, Pryor said smoothly. It demonstrates your father's lucid planning while he was healthy. It actually supports the will's validity. Trevor stood, buttoned his jacket. Marcus, I understand you're concerned about your mother, but she's an employee, not family. The will is ironclad. Witnesses signed it. Doctors verified competency at the time of execution. Your photographs prove nothing except that you trespassed and violated privacy laws. Marcus's hands clenched. You're stealing from her. We're following legal protocol. Trevor's voice hardened. And I'm going to give you one warning. Stay away from my father's bedroom. Stay away from estate documents. If you set foot in this house again without explicit permission, I'll have you arrested for trespassing. Understood? Marcus wanted to argue, but he saw their faces, calm, confident, untouchable. They'd already wargamed this scenario. They'd prepared for resistance. He gathered his photographs and left. His mother was in the hallway, face pale. She'd heard everything. Marcus, please, she whispered. Don't fight them. We can't win. But Marcus had already decided. He wasn't done. Not even close. That night Marcus couldn't sleep. He sat at his laptop, researching legal precedents for competency challenges. His mother had gone to bed crying, terrified of losing even the severance Trevor promised. At 2 a.m. his phone buzzed. Unknown number. Marcus answered. Marcus Carter. A woman's voice, professional, cautious, yes? This is Dr. Lena Hartfield. I reviewed your evidence. We need to talk now. 15 minutes later, Marcus was on a video call with Dr. Hartfield and another man, Dr. Idris Okafor, the neurologist who specialized in elder abuse cases. Dr. Okafor studied the video Marcus had taken. He watched it 3 times, zooming in on Ashford's face, the monitor readings. This is responsive behavior, Dr. Okafor said finally. The heart rate spike correlates directly with your verbal statement. The muscle tension in his jaw and hands indicates awareness, not reflex. Can you prove it? Marcus asked. I'd need to examine him personally. Run competency tests. Dr. Okafor paused. But the Ashford family won't allow that. They've already established a medical narrative. Dr. Hartfield leaned forward. There's another option. We file an emergency petition for a court-ordered competency evaluation. If we can demonstrate reasonable suspicion of fraud, a judge might grant access. What are the chances? Marcus asked. 20%, maybe less. You're fighting wealth, institutional credibility, and time. Ashford could die before any hearing. Marcus thought of his mother's face, the resignation in her eyes. We have to try. Dr. Hartfield nodded. I'll draft the petition tonight. We file tomorrow morning. Marcus hung up and sat in the dark apartment, hope flickering fragile in his chest. For the first time he had allies, experts, a strategy. The next morning everything collapsed. Marcus woke to pounding on the door. He opened it to find a process server holding legal documents. Trevor had moved faster than expected. The restraining order was comprehensive. Marcus was banned from the Ashford property, prohibited from contacting Richard Ashford directly, forbidden from discussing the estate with anyone except through legal counsel. Violation would result in immediate arrest. Marcus read the document twice, hands shaking. The petition Dr. Hartfield planned to file required evidence. Evidence Marcus could no longer access. Without ability to visit Ashford, they had no way to demonstrate ongoing consciousness. His mother stood in the doorway, face ashen. "Marcus, what did you do?" "I tried to help you. You made it worse." Her voice broke. "Trevor called me this morning. He said if you violate the restraining order, I'm fired immediately. No severance, nothing. He'll make sure I never work again." Marcus felt the weight of his mistake. He'd tried to fight power with evidence, but power didn't play fair. It wrote the rules, enforced the rules, rewrote them when convenient. "Mom, I'm sorry. Just stop." Elena's eyes filled with tears. "Please, baby." "Just stop." She left for work. Marcus sat alone in the apartment, restraining order on the table like a death sentence. His phone buzzed. "Dr. Hartfield, I heard about the restraining order. We can still file the petition, but without access to Ashford, it's dead in the water. No judge will grant an evaluation based solely on one video and a deposition." Marcus closed his eyes. "So we lost." "Not yet," Dr. Hartfield said carefully, "but we need a new strategy. Something they can't anticipate." Marcus hung up. He stared at the restraining order, then at his phone. The video was still there. 10 seconds of truth. 10 seconds that proved everything and changed nothing. Outside, snow began to fall. Marcus thought about his mother scrubbing floors in that mansion, thought about Trevor's smirk, thought about Ashford pretending to die while his cruelty executed itself. Then Marcus remembered something, a detail from his pre-law classes, a loophole in competency law that Dr. Hartfield hadn't mentioned yet. He opened his laptop and started typing. If he couldn't access Ashford, he'd force Ashford to reveal himself. He just needed the right pressure point. Everyone had one, even billionaires. His phone buzzed again. This time a text from an unknown number. "Stop digging or your mother loses everything. Final warning." Marcus stared at the message. Then he deleted it and kept typing. They'd made a mistake. They'd shown him how much they feared exposure, and fear meant vulnerability. Marcus smiled for the first time in days. The fight wasn't over. It was just beginning. The apartment felt smaller every day. Marcus sat at the kitchen table, restraining order beside his laptop, Elena's silence heavy as stone. She hadn't spoken to him in 3 days except to say, "I'm going to work," and good night. She was terrified. Marcus saw it in how she moved, shoulders hunched, eyes down, every gesture apologetic. Trevor's threat had worked. One wrong step and she'd lose everything. Marcus had tried to save her. Instead, he'd made her more vulnerable. Outside, the world continued. Inside, Marcus drowned in his own failure. The video sat on his phone, evidence no one would accept. The deposition existed, proof no court would hear. Dr. Hartfield had gone silent, likely realizing the case was hopeless. Marcus thought about giving up. Accepting defeat, letting his mother take the severance and move on. Maybe 2 weeks' pay was better than nothing. Maybe fighting power only broke the powerless. But then he'd remember Ashford's face, the fingers curling, the jaw tightening. The old man was awake, aware, winning, and Marcus couldn't let that stand. Late one night, Marcus sat alone in the dark apartment. His mother was asleep. He opened his phone and watched the video again. 10 seconds of subtle movement, 10 seconds that should matter. His pre-law textbook sat on the table, Elder Law and Competency Standards. He'd read it cover to cover, hunting for something everyone else had missed. Then he found it. A footnote on page 347. A case from 1998, Silverman versus Silverman Estate. Her daughter had proven her father was faking unconsciousness by triggering an emotional response unrelated to physical survival. Specifically, threatening something he valued more than his own health. Marcus sat up straight. His heart began to race. Ashford was pretending to be unconscious to avoid confrontation, to let his cruel will execute without interference. But what did Ashford value more than his reputation, more than his plan? His art collection. Marcus remembered Trevor's comment during the confrontation, something about the estate. Marcus opened his laptop and searched. Ashford art collection value. The results made him dizzy. $50 million. Monet Rothko Basquiat. Richard Ashford's obsession, his legacy, his pride. And Trevor was his son. Which meant Trevor would inherit it. Which meant Trevor could sell it. Marcus's hands shook as he drafted an email to Dr. Okafor. Subject line: New strategy. I know how to prove consciousness. He hit send and waited. The apartment was silent except for his breathing. A reply came within minutes. Explain. Marcus typed quickly, explaining the legal precedent, the emotional trigger strategy. If they could get a hearing, any hearing, and threaten Ashford's art collection in a way that made him react, they'd have proof of consciousness. Dr. Okafor's response was cautious but intrigued. It's risky. If he doesn't react, we lose credibility. But if he does... Call me tomorrow. We need to plan carefully. Marcus closed his laptop. For the first time since the restraining order, hope flickered again. Small, fragile, but real. He looked at his mother's closed bedroom door. She'd given up. She'd accepted defeat, because that's what survival had taught her. But Marcus had learned something different. His education wasn't just about memorizing laws. It was about finding cracks in systems designed to protect power. The Ashfords thought they'd won. They'd silenced him, threatened his mother, built walls around their fraud. But walls had foundations. And foundations could crack. Dr. Hartfield called the next morning. Dr. Okafor explained your theory. It's brilliant and insane in equal measure. Will it work? Marcus asked. Legally? Maybe. The Silverman precedent is narrow but applicable. If we can demonstrate responsive consciousness through emotional trigger rather than physical stimulus, it bypasses standard neurological assessment. So we filed the petition? Already drafted. But Marcus, you need to understand, if Ashford doesn't react, this gambit destroys any remaining credibility. No judge will grant a second hearing. It's our only shot. Marcus thought of his mother's face. The years of exhaustion. The hope betrayed. Then we make it count. Dr. Hartfield filed the emergency petition that afternoon. Carter versus Ashford Estate. Request for court-ordered competency evaluation. The legal argument was precise. Credible evidence suggested Richard Ashford retained consciousness and had executed legal documents under false pretenses of incapacity. Trevor's lawyers responded within hours. They called the petition frivolous, desperate, bordering on harassment. They demanded sanctions against Marcus and his legal team, but Dr. Hartfield had anticipated this. She submitted the video, the deposition excerpts, and the Silverman precedent. She argued that Richard Ashford's pattern of manipulation toward staff warranted judicial scrutiny. The judge, Hon. Patricia Reeves, known for elder law expertise, granted a preliminary hearing. 1 hour, one chance. If Marcus's team could demonstrate reasonable suspicion of consciousness, a full evaluation would be ordered. The hearing was scheduled for Friday. 3 days away, Richard Ashford would be present, transported by medical team, surrounded by monitors and equipment. Dr. Okafor met with Marcus the night before. They sat in a coffee shop near campus reviewing strategy. The key is specificity, Dr. Okafor explained. We can't make vague threats. I need to mention something concrete, something only Ashford would react to emotionally. Marcus pulled up his research. The Monet, water lilies and Japanese bridge. Ashford bought it in 1987 for $2 million. It's worth $25 million now. He's refused to loan it to museums. It hangs in his private study. Dr. Okafor made notes. And Trevor's intent. Public record shows he's consulted with Christie's auction house 3 times in the past year. He wants to liquidate the collection. Ashford knows this. It's why they fought publicly in 2023. Perfect. Dr. Okafor leaned back. If I tell Ashford that Trevor's selling the Monet tomorrow and he's conscious, he won't be able to hide his reaction. And if he doesn't react? Dr. Okafor met Marcus's eyes. Then your mother loses her inheritance. Trevor fires her immediately. and you'll have legal bills you can't afford. We'll have exposed your family to retaliation for nothing. Marcus thought about his mother, about 17 years of labor, about promises made and broken, about the choice between safety and justice. Do it, Marcus said quietly. Whatever happens, we tried. The next morning, Marcus told his mother about the hearing. She sat at the kitchen table, coffee cold in her hands. You didn't stop, she said. Not angry. Just tired, I couldn't. Elena looked at her son. Really looked at the determination in his face, the intelligence she'd sacrificed everything to cultivate. You're braver than me. I learned from you, Mom. You survived. Now I'm fighting. She reached across the table, took his hand. If this doesn't work, it will. But if it doesn't, I need you to promise me something. Let it go. We'll survive. We always do. Marcus squeezed her hand. He didn't promise, because he wasn't sure he could keep it. Friday arrived cold and bright. The hearing was held in Judge Reeves's chambers, not a courtroom but a formal office. Richard Ashford was wheeled in on a medical gurney, unconscious. Monitors tracked his vitals. A nurse stood beside him. Trevor and Pryor sat on one side, confident and calm. Marcus, Dr. Hartfield, and Dr. Okafor sat on the other. Eleanor waited in the hallway, banned from the room. Potential witness conflict. Judge Reeves reviewed the petition, then looked at Dr. Okafor. Doctor, you have one opportunity to demonstrate consciousness. Proceed. Dr. Okafor stood. He approached Ashford's gurney. The old man lay still, eyes closed, breathing shallow, and Dr. Okafor leaned close to his ear and began to speak. The room held its breath. Judge Reeves watched intently. Trevor's face was stone. Pryor's pen hovered over his legal pad. Dr. Okafor's voice was low, conversational. Mr. Ashford, I'm Dr. Idris Okafor. I'm here to evaluate your neurological status. No response. The monitors beeped steadily. Heart rate 70 beats per minute. Dr. Okafor continued. I'm going to conduct a standard verbal stimulus test. Please listen carefully. He performed routine tests, asking Ashford to squeeze his hand, to open his eyes, to respond to simple commands. Nothing. The old man remained motionless. Trevor's lawyer smirked. Your Honor, this is clearly... Judge Reeves raised her hand. Let him finish. Dr. Okafor stepped back as if concluding. Then he leaned down again, voice still quiet but carrying perfectly in the silent room. Mr. Ashford, there's something you should know. Your son Trevor has finalized arrangements with Christie's auction house. The sale is scheduled for next week. Heart rate 72. A slight uptick. He's selling your art collection. The entire collection. The Rothko, the Basquiat. Dr. Okafor paused. And the Monet. Water lilies and Japanese bridge. The piece you told the Times was your most prized possession. Heart rate 78. Trevor's face paled. This is absurd. The auction is Monday, Dr. Okafor continued, ignoring the interruption. Trevor's already signed the contracts. Christie's is handling transport tomorrow. Your Monet will be sold to a private collector in Dubai. You'll never see it again. Heart rate 85. Blood pressure spiking on the monitor. Marcus watched Ashford's face, saw the color rising in his cheeks, saw his breathing quicken. The sale price is estimated at $22 million, Dr. Okafor said. Below market value. Trevor's taking the first offer. The Monet that you protected, that you refused to loan to the Met, that you acquired after years of negotiation, gone by Tuesday. Heart rate 92. Ashford's fingers twitched. His jaw clenched. The nurse noticed, glanced at the monitors with concern. He's selling it tomorrow, Mr. Ashford. Tomorrow morning. Christie's team arrives at 9 a.m. to create and transport it. If you want to stop them, you'll need to... No. The word exploded from Ashford's lips. His eyes snapped open. He tried to sit up, restrained by equipment. His hand reached toward Trevor, trembling with rage. You can't, I told you. The Monet stays in the family. Ashford's voice was hoarse but clear, conscious, aware, furious. The room erupted. Trevor shot to his feet. Pryor dropped his pen. The nurse rushed to check monitors. Judge Reeves stood, eyes wide. Ashford's gaze locked on Trevor. "You dare sell my collection?" "Well, He stopped, realization crashing over him. He'd revealed everything. His eyes found Marcus. Recognition flickered. The Maid's son. The one who'd discovered the addendum. The one who'd whispered threats in the darkness. Ashford's face contorted. Not with medical distress. With fury at being outmaneuvered, Dr. Okafor stepped back calmly. "For the record, Your Honor, the patient demonstrates clear consciousness, verbal communication and emotional reasoning. There is no sale scheduled with Christie's. That was a test stimulus. Mr. Ashford's response indicates full cognitive awareness." Judge Reeves sat down slowly. She looked at Trevor. "Mr. Ashford, did you know your father was conscious?" Trevor's mouth opened, closed. The doctors said, "Did you know?" Her voice was steel, silence. Pryor stood. "Your Honor, we'd like to request a recess to consult with our client." "Your client is apparently capable of speaking for himself." Judge Reeves turned to Richard Ashford, who'd slumped back against the gurney, eyes closed again, but the pretense was broken. "Mr. Ashford, open your eyes." Slowly, reluctantly he did. "How long have you been conscious?" Ashford's voice was quiet now, defeated. The whole time the words hung in the air. Marcus felt something loosen in his chest. Validation, vindication, relief. Judge Reeves made notes. "And you executed legal documents during this period of false incapacitation." "I was protecting my estate." "From whom?" Ashford didn't answer. But his eyes flickered to the hallway, where Eleanor waited. Where all the staff he'd manipulated waited. Judge Reeves closed her folder. "So I'm ordering a full forensic review of all estate documents executed in the past 6 months. All provisions created during Mr. Ashford's claimed incapacitation are suspended pending review. Including," she consulted her notes, "any conditional inheritance clauses added via addendum." Trevor's face went white. Pryor began whispering urgently to him. Marcus sat frozen, hardly breathing. They'd won. Actually won. Judge Reeves looked at Marcus. "Young man, you demonstrated remarkable courage and legal insight. Your mother is fortunate." "Thank you, Your Honor." She turned back to Ashford. "As for you, Mr. Ashford, I'm referring this case to the state attorney for investigation into elder fraud, self-inflicted, which is a new one for me, and conspiracy to defraud. You'll remain under court supervision during recovery." Ashford said nothing. His empire of manipulation had collapsed in 10 seconds. One lie expertly exploited. The hearing ended. Marcus walked into the hallway where his mother stood. Elena's face was wet with tears. She didn't ask what happened. "She just held her son. We won," Marcus whispered. "We actually won." Elena's hands shook against his back. 17 years of silence, finally breaking. The forensic review took 3 weeks. During that time, Richard Ashford remained in hospital care, legitimately this time, suffering from stress-induced cardiac episodes. The pretense of unconsciousness had apparently been so taxing that real medical crisis followed its exposure. The court's findings were damning. Every document Ashford had executed during his incapacitation was voided. The addendum to Elena's inheritance deleted. The promises he'd made to other staff members reinstated according to the original will. Trevor faced fraud conspiracy charges. He pled guilty to reduced charges in exchange for cooperation. Pryor was disbarred. The original will stood. Eleanor received what had been promised, $200,000. Enough to clear Marcus's student debt completely, with remainder for her retirement. Marcus stood with his mother in the lawyer's office when the check was signed. Elena held it with shaking hands, staring at the numbers as if they might disappear. "This is real," she whispered. "It's real, Mom." She folded the check carefully, placed it in her purse. Then she turned to Marcus, and something in her face had changed. The exhaustion was still there, but the resignation was gone. "You gave me my voice back," she said quietly. "I'd forgotten I had one." Marcus thought about his mother's years of silence, How she'd taught him survival through obedience. How she'd believed the powerful were untouchable, but she'd also taught him that education was freedom. That knowledge was power. That patience and observation could reveal truth. She'd given him the tools. He'd learned how to use them. Richard Ashford died 4 months later. His death made the papers. Billionaire philanthropist, complicated legacy. The articles mentioned his art collection, his business empire, his charitable foundations. None mentioned the staff he'd manipulated, the promises he'd broken, the cruelty he'd disguised as generosity. But Eleanor knew, Marcus knew, and the 12 other staff members who received their proper inheritances knew. The Ashford mansion was sold. Trevor moved to California, reputation destroyed. The art collection went to museums, including the Monet donated in Richard Ashford's name. A final irony, Elena retired. She bought a small house near Marcus's university. She planted a garden. She attended his law school graduation, sitting in the front row weeping with pride. Marcus graduated debt-free. He joined a non-profit law firm specializing in elder exploitation cases. His first case involved a housekeeper whose employer had faked dementia to avoid honoring her contract. Marcus won. He thought of his mother often, of the keys she'd asked him to retrieve, of the decision to enter that bedroom, of the document that had started everything. One choice, one moment of courage, and everything changed. Marcus stood outside the law firm on a spring morning, coffee in hand, watching the city wake. His phone buzzed, his mother sending a photo of her garden in bloom. He smiled and pocketed the phone. Then he looked up at the building where he worked. A modest office. Nothing like the marble halls of the Ashford mansion, but the work done here mattered more than any billionaire's empire. Power believes it's invisible when it harms the powerless. It closes its eyes and pretends sleep, confident no one will dare disturb its rest. It writes contracts designed to fail and calls them generosity. It promises justice while rigging the scales. But the invisible watch, the silent observe. The powerless remember every broken promise, every casual cruelty, every moment of dismissal. And sometimes, not often enough, but sometimes, someone refuses to accept that power is inevitable. Someone finds the courage to speak truth in rooms designed for silence. Someone decides that justice is worth risking everything. Marcus's mother had taught him to survive. He taught her they could do more than survive. They could win. The powerful should remember this. The people you don't see are still watching. The ones you've silenced still have voices. And the son of the woman who cleaned your floors might be the one who brings your empire down, not with violence, not with rage, but with evidence, strategy, and the unshakable belief that truth matters, even when power pretends to sleep, especially then. Marcus finished his coffee and walked into the office. He had work to do, cases to fight, voices to amplify. The powerful were still pretending to sleep, but Marcus was wide awake.